Hello, my name is Jennifer Cannell. I'm an education specialist with federal programs at the State Department of Education. Today, we will discuss the options that some districts have to select their poverty data for the FY26 consolidated application within EGAP. This data will appear on the building eligibility page under Title I, Part A. Any LEA with schools that participated in the Community Eligibility Provision Program last school year, which is school year 24-25, has the option to use or not to use the 1.6 multiplier for ranking and serving purposes for Title I, Part A in FY26. So we're going to discuss both options and what LEAs need to do in order to make their selection. First, let's talk about poverty data. The school level poverty data that will be on the building eligibility page in EGAP for FY26 comes from the fall collection from October of 2024. The poverty data is always a year in arrears. This data is located in the socioeconomic indicator tile in the AIM portal. If you need any assistance using that tile, you can contact me and I'll walk you through the process of pulling it step by step. Okay, so what we look at are the poverty percentages. A school's poverty percentage is calculated by taking that low income count or the poverty count and dividing it by the enrollment. The low income count and the enrollment count come from the students that were enrolled on that third Friday in October, that snapshot day for the fall collection. The enrollment number is going to be static and it will not vary because that's how many students that you had enrolled on that day. However, the low income count can change depending on the option that the LEA has selected. This variance in that low income count is what impacts a school's poverty percentage. So the poverty percentage can increase or decrease depending on the option that is selected by the LEA and how that low income count is therefore defined. Let's look at how the low income count is determined by default. So this is what will be automatically loaded on the building eligibility page in EGAP for FY26. For any school that is CEP, the low income count is the number of students who are directly certified as free times the 1.6 multiplier. Students are directly certified based on their participation in other qualifying programs, such as SNAP, TANF, Medicaid, foster care, migrant, or if the student is experiencing homelessness. These students are automatically considered free. They did not have to complete any kind of income application with the CNP program. Okay, let's look at an example. Let's say a school had 90 students directly certified as free. That means the low income count would be 90 multiplied by 1.6, which is 144. So 144 would be the low income count. All right, let's look at non-CEP schools. For any school that is not CEP, the low income count is the number of students who qualify for free or reduced price lunch based on the income applications that they submitted, plus the number of students who are directly certified as free. So for example, at a non-CEP school, that let's say they have 100 free students and 30 reduced price lunch students. That 100 students that are considered free can be comprised of, let's say, 25 students who qualified as free based on the income application, and 75 who are free because they are directly certified for participating in one of those qualifying programs that we talked about a moment ago. So we know 75 plus 25 is going to equal the 100. And then the 30 who qualify for reduced price lunch, that they're qualifying based on an income application that was submitted. So therefore, for this school, the low income count would be 130, 100 free plus the 30 reduced price. So at the end of the day, the purpose of the 1.6 multiplier for CEP schools is to account for students who may have qualified if families were completing income applications at those schools. But one of the perks of CEP is that you're not having families complete income applications. It reduces a paperwork burden. So you are allowed to factor in students that may have qualified if they did complete an income application at those CEP schools. Okay, what we just talked about with how that low income count was determined, that is the default method of determining the low income count. And we are going to refer to that as option 1. LEAs with CEP schools have the choice to calculate their income count differently, however. And so that is going to be what we call option 2. So this is an alternate option for districts with CEP schools. With option 2, for any school that is CEP, the low income count is the number of students who are directly certified as free, period. The 1.6 multiplier is not applied. So if we go back to that first example we used a moment ago, where that school had 90 students who directly certified as free, if we were using option 2, then our low income count is now going to be 90. Okay, for districts that have both CEP and non-CEP schools, the free count will also be used for the non-CEP schools. So it's just the free count's going to be used for everyone. The free count at the non-CEP school is going to be derived from students who qualify based on the income applications, plus those who are directly certified. The students who qualify for reduced price lunch are excluded from the count in option 2, so that we can provide a more common poverty metric for ranking both the CEP and non-CEP schools against each other when we're not applying the 1.6 multiplier. So looking at our example for a non-CEP school a moment ago, we talked about the low income count being 130, 100 were free, and 30 were reduced price lunch. The 100 that were free were made up from both those who filled out an income application and those who were directly certified. So for this school, with that example, if they were selecting, the district had chosen option 2, then the low income count would now be 100 instead of 130, because we exclude the reduced price lunch count. Okay, this is an important thing to take note of. An LEA may choose to use the 1.6 multiplier for C&P purposes, and at the same time choose not to use the 1.6 multiplier for ranking and serving purposes for Title I Part A. So don't feel like it's either or, and it's not going to impact you using the multiplier with your reimbursement rate for C&P. Okay, let's move on and look at some examples and talk about the implications of each option. So each LEA that had at least one school participate in CEP last year has been given a document that we prepared that shows the poverty data for option 1 for them and option 2 for FY26. We really hope that that is helpful to you all when considering which option to select. But there is one caveat that you need to make note of. If your district is reconfiguring schools for the 25-26 school year, this will change your poverty data from that document that we sent you. Okay, so if you know that your district is going through a reconfiguration for the coming school year, that would include opening any new schools, closing any existing schools, or rezoning any schools, then please reach out to me so that we can discuss this further, because your poverty data is not going to look like this document that we sent. And we don't want you to get confused as you make your decision. If your district is not having any kind of reconfiguration, then you don't have to worry about it. This document that we sent you will be accurate. Okay, the decision to select option 1 or option 2 is going to be based on the individual needs, strategies, goals, and priorities of each district. Each district is unique, and so option 1 may be best for one district, while option 2 may be best for another district. However, in all of the examples, option 1 uses the 1.6 multiplier for CEP schools, and option 2 does not use the 1.6 multiplier. So let's look at example 1 now. Adventure City Schools is the district that we're looking at, and they have 4 schools within the LEA. The schools that are highlighted in green are considered high priority schools. This means that they exceed 75% poverty, are required to be served as Title I Part A schools, and they must be served in strict rank order by their poverty percentage. You'll also notice that there are some schools highlighted in yellow here. The schools highlighted in yellow are low priority schools. That means that they are at or below 75% poverty, and it is optional for the LEA to serve them as Title I Part A schools. If the district does choose to serve them, the LEA may do so in rank order by poverty percentage, or they can rank them by grade span grouping. So looking at the example, let's consider that Adventure City Schools has a goal to prioritize the high school grade span to align with the need to increase the graduation rate and to help meet strategic goals related to career and college readiness. So by selecting option 2, the district can utilize grade span grouping to serve the high school and not serve the middle school. Yes, they'll have to serve Adventure Elementary and Journey Elementary, but then they could choose to serve the high school and not the middle by using grade span grouping. If the district wanted to serve all the schools within their LEA, but they still wanted to prioritize the high school, then they could use the grade span grouping to give the high school a higher per pupil allocation than they do to the middle school, even though the middle school has a higher poverty percentage. If they chose option 1, then they would not be able to do that. They would have to serve them in strict rank order. Now let's consider another scenario where Adventure City Schools wants to prioritize the elementary grade span. They could choose option 2 and serve only the 2 elementary schools, Adventure Elementary and Journey Elementary. This would allow the LEA to divide the Title I allocation just by 2 schools instead of all 4, meaning that those 2 elementaries would get a higher per pupil allocation than they would if they were having to split the money amongst 4 schools. But however, if the LEA chose option one instead, they would be required to serve all four schools. So you can see that it can make a big impact by choosing option one or by choosing option two. But you have to look at what your LEA needs to accomplish and see which option helps you to do that. Let's look at example two with the Pleasant Valley School District. In this example, there are schools that are again highlighted in yellow, like there were in the last one. And just to remind you, that means they are low priority. And to review what that means they are at or below 75% poverty, and they may be served as Title I schools if the LEA chooses to do so. They may also be ranked by grade span grouping instead of in strict rank order by poverty percentage. But in this example, we also have some schools highlighted in red. The schools highlighted in red are not eligible to be served as Title I schools because their poverty percentage is less than 35%. The poverty percentage of these two schools is also less than the district's average, which is around 32%. So in this scenario, let's say that Pleasant Valley school system wants to serve all the schools in the district because they only have 3 schools. They feel that it's important that all of their students benefit within the district, and they feel strongly that the allocation should be split among all 3 schools. Well, in order to do that, they would have to select option one using the multiplier. Because if they selected option two, then Pleasant Valley Middle and Pleasant Valley High would not be eligible to be served. However, they would be eligible to be served under option one. Let's look at one final example. In this one, we're looking at Riverview School District. And notice that all the schools in both options are highlighted in green. Now, to review, that means that they are high priority, so they exceed 75%. They must be served as Title I schools, and they must be served in strict rank order by poverty percentage. Okay, looking at these options, option 1 and 2, the district is going to be required to serve all the schools in the same rank order in both options. Therefore, this district really is not required to select option 1 or option 2 because there's no impact on its ranking and serving, on how it ranks and serves students with Part A, Title I, Part A funds. So in this case, it's just best for us to go with the default option, which automatically loads into EGAP, which will be option 1. It is not going to change by selecting option 2. It would not change any schools that are served, nor the order that the schools are served in. So there's no reason for us to try to require a form from you. It has no impact, and it would be easier on everyone if we just go with the default. Okay, looking at the FY26 poverty data selection form, we have tried our best to simplify this form as much as possible. We ask for basic contact information at the top in case I need to talk to you about the option you selected, or in case something's not clear, or in case sometimes we get 2 forms and we need to know, and they have different options, and we need to know which one you're really selecting. The form also needs to be signed and dated by the superintendent, and of course, option 1 or option 2 need to be checked, but not both. If option 1 is selected, then that default data will remain on the building eligibility page in EGAP. If option 2 is selected, then the poverty data will be manually changed from that default data by someone here within the State Department to make sure that that data is loaded correctly for you. Let's look a little closer at option 1 and option 2. Option 1 uses the free count times the 1.6 multiplier for the CEP schools. And option 1 uses the free and reduced count for non-CEP schools. Option 2 uses the free count only for both CEP and non-CEP schools. The 1.6 multiplier is not used, and the reduced count is not included for the non-CEP schools. I want you to notice that option 1 on the form coincides with option 1 on the document in all the examples that we used. Here's the example from Adventure City Schools. It coincides with option 1 on your LEA's document. And so hopefully that will help you visualize what that poverty data is going to look like with that option so you can select the right one and not have regret later. Option 2 also coincides. Option 2 on the document coincides with option 2 on the form. All LEAs do not need to submit this form. So let's talk about who does need to submit the form. LEAs that have at least one CEP school in their district, and where option 1 and option 2 offer different ways to rank and serve schools. Those are the ones that do need to complete the form. So if you have different options, like in the examples we looked at, example 1 and example 2, both of those LEAs would need to submit the form because both option 1 and option 2 offer different ways to rank and serve. Okay, these are the LEAs who do not need to submit the form. That's going to be LEAs, first of all, that don't accept Title I Part A funds. LEAs that have no CEP schools do not need to submit the form. LEAs that have a total enrollment of less than 1,000 students do not need to submit the form because those LEAs are totally exempt from ranking and serving requirements altogether. Finally, LEAs with CEP schools where both option 1 and option 2 offer the same way to rank and serve the schools, they don't need to submit the form. That goes back to example 3 that we looked at, where all the schools in both options in that example were high priority. So therefore, there's no impact on ranking and serving by selecting an option. So we're just going to go with the default option 1. If you're still not sure if your LEA needs to complete the form or not, here is a list. If your LEA is highlighted in yellow, then you need to complete the form. If your LEA is highlighted in blue, then you do not need to submit the form. The poverty data selection form is going to be completed in DocuSign. When you click on the link to the form, it's going to take you to this screen and you'll see the following information. It's asking for you to enter information for 2 people, the federal programs director, which should be yourself, and we need your name and your email, and then also the superintendent's name and email. It's asking for your name and email address so that the form can be mailed to the appropriate people to complete it. Please do not send this form to your LEA CNP director to complete. That caused a lot of confusion last year, and it has nothing to do with their role. This is using the 1.6 multiplier for ranking and serving purposes with Title I Part A. The CNP director does not need to complete this form, and it does not have any impact on the use of the 1.6 multiplier on the CNP side. So please make sure that we keep the form in the right lane to the correct people who need it. Okay, so once you submit your name and your email address in the federal programs director section and your superintendent's name and email address and click start, one of two things will happen. DocuSign will either go ahead and open the document for you right away, or it will email you a link to the form and you can click on the link from your email. Okay, so for when I tested it, it let me go ahead and open it directly. But if you don't have a DocuSign account or something, it may email you a link and you have to access the form from your email. Okay, when you start the form, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to need to enter the LEA contact information and either select option 1 or 2. It will not allow you to submit the form if both options are checked. So please make sure you're selecting the right option that your LEA wants to use for the FY26 school year. Once you've completed your tasks, you're going to see this ready to finish button at the bottom and you click on finish. Once you click on finish, you're going to see this little screen pop up where you can download a copy of the document that you've completed or print a copy. You can do that if you want to, but really you just need to click close. At this point, DocuSign is going to email your superintendent with a link to the form. You do not need to bring your superintendent into the same room so that y'all can complete the form at the same time. It's going to email them for their portion that they need to complete. The roles have already been pre-assigned within the document. Okay, once your superintendent checks their email, they're going to see an email similar to this where they see it says, please start the 25-26 CEP poverty data form. They're going to click start. And then when they start on that, they're going to have an opportunity to sign the form. The date will be automatically completed on the date they sign. At that point in time, they're going to again click the finish button just like you did on yours. Once they click the finish button, again, that same screen will pop up where they can download and print a copy of their document or just close it out. At this point, the federal programs director, yourself, the superintendent, and me are going to receive a copy of the completed form to our email. And you can print out a completed copy at that time, or you can save it to your desktop, whichever you prefer. And then I've received the document. There's no need to submit it again. There's no need to submit it by email and DocuSign if you can get DocuSign to work. Last year, a few people did have some technical issues. And so if for some reason you cannot get it to work within DocuSign, you may go ahead and print out a copy of the blank form from the email, complete the form manually, and scan and email a copy to me. I've got my email address on the screen if you cannot, for some reason, get it to work within DocuSign. The form is due by Thursday, July the 30th. We want to have plenty of time to have that poverty data loaded in eGap for you all. And you cannot start on the application until we get that poverty data loaded. So we need it in a timely manner. A couple of things to think about. We're not going to be able to accept any late forms, and we're not going to be able to accept any changes after the due date. It will be too late at that point to make any changes to your poverty data for FY26. So please pay attention and make sure you're selecting the best option for your district. If any LEAs that are required to complete the form do not do so by the due date, then option 1, which is the poverty data with a 1.6 multiplier included, is going to automatically be used on the building eligibility page in eGap for FY26. I really hope that this information was helpful for you all. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and I will be glad to talk with you provide any other information I can or help you uh, in it to the best of my ability. I've got my email address and my phone number on the screen, and I look forward to hearing from you all and receiving your forms. Thank you so much.